Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Friday Live Q&A. I am here, Fiona Lukeis it is. I am here live on Facebook and on YouTube right now. So if you're listening in YouTube land, thank you for being here. Feel free to hit the subscribe button as well. That'd be awesome. And if you're listening on Facebook, hello, welcome. Great to have you here. This is a Q&A where I go live every Friday, most Fridays, around 12:30 p.m.-ish, Australian Eastern. Well, it's daylight savings right now, but we are moving out of daylight savings on Sunday, so the time will change next week. We're going back towards normal standard time as the other half of the world has moved into daylight savings. So the cycle of life keeps on turning, doesn't it? So we are in fall, autumn here. And it's definitely getting chillier and darker at night, and you can definitely feel changes in the air. Hey, Donna, hello. Thank you for saying hi. I really appreciate that, honey. Always, as always. Anyone else out there who wants to say hi, please do so. Always love to hear who's out there listening and where you are from. Hello, Deeza, honey. Hello, beautiful. Thank you so much for saying hi. I know it's not a big, you love the snow, but hopefully you know the snow is starting to melt for you and you're starting to see the hints of spring there in Colorado. So now, obviously, I'm just going to give the feed a bit of time. It takes a little bit of time to work through for people and for people to know that I'm here. So I'm just going to give that a little bit more time. But obviously, if you're just tuning in, please say hi. Let me know where you're listening from. And if you've got any questions, also let me know. I'll happily do my best to answer whatever question you have. No question is too big or too small. Hey, Shani. Hi. I can see you're listening from YouTube. Awesome. Someone's listening to me from YouTube. I never quite know. I'm a bit slow to joining YouTube. So never know who's out there. So thanks for saying hi, honey. And anyone else? Hey, Marion. Oh, rain and wind in sunny Glasgow. Okay, awesome. All right. Glasgow, surely it's the middle of the night for you, isn't it? If you're in Glasgow, it's like got to be like super like early in the morning, like 4 a.m. or something crazy. Is that right? Or have I got that wrong? But it must be the middle of the night for you guys. So I'm very impressed that you're here listening, Marion. That's amazing. And anyone else, let me know where you're listening from. So I thought today I really wanted to. I've had a couple of people send me. There you go, 2:45 a.m. Oh my goodness, right? Yeah, super early in the morning. So I've had a few people messaging me lately, sort of saying, I've bought your book, really finding it really helpful. How do I apply it in this situation? How do I apply it in that situation? And I guess. What I thought I might just do at least for the first part of this live today is I just want to cover some what I consider fundamentals. All right. And there are just certain things that are just fundamental to our relationships. And I really think I need to create some sort of a class on this or some sort of something called relationship fundamentals. That's been bubbling around in my mind for a little while now. There are some things that are just fundamental in our relationships and in any relationship. Okay, these are the things that are the building blocks for everything else. And some of you may have heard me speak about this but I haven't talked about this for quite a while, like probably since mid last year. So I just thought it might be time to bring some of this back into the conversation because I just think it's super, super important for people to understand this stuff. There are just some fundamentals that need to be in place in any or every relationship in your life. There are fundamentals. And the great thing is the fundamentals are the same. Okay, no matter what the relationship, the fundamentals are the same. So the great thing about the understanding that I teach is because the fundamentals are the same, you can take those fundamentals and apply them to any and every relationship, whether it be a relationship with your children, a relationship with a work colleague, a relationship with a family member, your relationship with you, your relationship with life, which I think is incredibly important, okay? There's just certain fundamentals that are crucial. And I think they get overlooked or they get missed a lot because we get caught up in lots of fancy terminology, lots of interesting kind of descriptors of things that I think miss the fundamentals of relationships. And so I just wanted to address that, because I think when you've got the fundamentals in place, the how looks a lot easier to navigate. But when you don't have the fundamentals in place, the how looks very challenging to navigate, very, very challenging, and people get stuck on the how. And I can generally tell when people are struggling with the how, it's because they haven't got the fundamentals down pat, right? And so this is why I say relationships, and this is true of all relationships, are built from the ground up. There's a baseline that comes in any relationship, and I'm all about building relationships from the bottom up, not the top down. Okay, and I think there's a lot of stuff out there that is focused on the top down, and that's not the stuff that creates sustainable, connected, easy, playful relationships where you feel like you're in partnership and you've got each other's back. So, hey, Sandy. Hi. Thanks for saying hi, honey. Oh, lovely to know that you're out there listening, Sandy. I do love knowing that you're out there, honey. So thank you. Thanks for commenting. Anyone else want to say hi? Let me know. And so relationship, the stuff, and I want to draw a distinction between the stuff. It's not that the stuff that you kind of learn, that the top-down stuff isn't helpful, but it isn't very helpful in of itself on its own. It's interesting, but not the stuff that really makes a difference, okay? And so when I talk about the stuff that I would consider the top-down stuff, that'll be things like looking at your values, personality types, masculine and feminine energy, attachment styles, love languages, rapport, date nights. If for a relationship, obviously that's an intimate one. These are the stuff that I consider the top down. And like I said, I'm not trying to diss any of that, and it can be really interesting, but in of itself isn't necessarily the thing that creates change. All right, we don't do well really with a lot of information. It's if information were the thing that really made a difference in a relationship, then why is are so many people struggling? The rate of divorce at the moment for depending on where you are in the world, it changes a little bit, but the statistics for divorce are huge at the moment. And then second marriages, that actually doubles. Okay, so you're looking at around about 1 in 3 of every second, if it's a second marriage, that relationship failing. And the rate of divorce at the moment, like I said, it changes from a little bit, but it's around about, like, this is the statistics out there. You're looking at around 40 to 50%, which is just huge. Okay, so if and then let's not count families or parents that are estranged from their children and other things going on out there. So if information were the key, there's plenty of information available to people, right? Plenty. The internet is a wealth of information. You can type in anything and everything, and you'll find it. So if it was about information, then why are so many people still struggling? And to me, information is one of those things that gives us a false sense of doing something that doesn't really move the needle. Like enrolling in a gym, you feel good for a bit, but you still have to actually go and do a class, lift weights, and you still got to do the heavy lifting. I think reading about stuff, gaining a lot of information gives people a false sense of something, but isn't really the thing that moves the needle in a moment of now when you really need access to something else. Hey, Leanne, thanks for saying hi. Appreciate it. Another person in YouTube land. Awesome. Hey, Rick, always lovely to hear from you. Thank you for saying hi. So I just wanted to talk about what are the things that are the foundations that we all need to have down pat. Now, the great thing about foundations is it doesn't matter about your past. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your upbringing. This is available to everybody because these foundations are true to all human beings and they apply to all human beings, no exception. Okay. And so what I love about the understanding that I teach and what it points to is it's talking about our innate humanness, and our innate humanness is the same. Okay, it's the same. I promise you, I'm very well qualified to make this statement. I have, and I don't say this to big note myself, but I have students all over the world, clients all over the world. I meet people from all different cultures, all different walks of life, and I have not met an exception to what I'm saying. All right. So there is an innate nature to human beings that is the same amongst all of us. And so there are just some fundamentals that are true. Now, one of the things that is fundamentally important, and that something that you want to make sure that you're good at, truly, these are the things that you want to make sure that you're good at. And if it were me, look, this has been my, I guess, my journey in life, and something I'm very passionate and committed to is I am doing everything I can to be really great at the fundamentals. Because when I'm great at the fundamentals, everything else becomes easier. If there's conflict between my husband and I, we get over it quickly. If I've got to parent my children or go through deal with a difficult subject with them, so much easier. If I've got to make decisions in my personal life, I have clarity around that, and I'm not finding it difficult to make decisions. If something difficult comes my way in life, and you've heard me say this before, life is a contact sport, I have this resilience inside me that I never had before, right? And that's because of these fundamentals. So it's not that life isn't challenging at times, because it is, and life can be a lot. I get that. But when you've got these foundational things in place, there is just so much more ease with how you navigate anything and everything, okay? And the great thing is, like I said, these apply to everybody. So in my mind, you learn the fundamental stuff first, and then you build your relationship from there. But if you're just looking at a date night, like let's just use that as an example. I know that doesn't apply to every relationship, but if you're just looking at a date night, oh, we're struggling, we're feeling a bit disconnected, let's go on a date night. In of itself, that sounds like a great idea, right? But if you don't know how to generate goodwill, and goodwill is one of those foundational things, if you don't know how to generate goodwill, if there isn't a lot of goodwill, date night can be one of those points where relationships actually implode, because you get two people that are sitting across the table from each other. Maybe they spend a bit of money on a babysitter. Maybe they're in a restaurant that they wouldn't normally go to, so they're spending a little bit more money than usual. So they're thinking about, we've spent all this money. They've taken time to get dressed and make themselves look nice. And, all of those things take time. And you sit down and you think, gee, we've put a lot of effort into this. Here we are sitting across the table from one another. And then, all you're thinking about is the thing that your partner has been doing that drives you crazy, or you find that they say something in a way that you don't like to the waiter, or do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're fuming and you're irritated and you're thinking to yourself, I've just gone to all this effort to go on a date night with you, and I don't even want to be here. Right? This happens to people a lot. And so then they use that as an indicator of how healthy their relationship is, right? That in of itself might seem like no big deal, but if you have the foundations in place, you don't have the same reaction if those things happen. Does that make sense? There's not all the pressure on the date night. There's not all the pressure on that one thing. When you have the foundations in place, you actually approach things from a completely different space, rather than, all right, let's go on a date night, even though we don't really enjoy each other's company, even though we're fighting, even though we're doing all of these things, because maybe if we spend time together, we'll have a good time. And generally people don't, okay, because they're annoyed, they're frustrated, they've got a lot of resentment, they're thinking about the past, and it becomes heightened because now you're sitting across the table from each other, meant to be having a good time, and you're not, right? And then we add that into the mix. So, I find that people can get caught up in learning what each other's love language is, for example. And love languages is a wonderful thing. Don't get me wrong. I've found it fascinating and I've learned a lot from it. But, and I will put a but in there, if your love language, for example, or your partner's love language, for example, is physical touch, and you find physical touch hard to do, and some people do, okay? If you find physical touch hard, like you think to yourself, I'm not really a touchy-feely person, so it doesn't occur to you to hold their hand or give them a kiss hello, or like that's something that you struggle with. What's going to happen is, knowing what their love language is and them knowing that you know what their love language is, creates a heightened amount of expectation, right? It lifts the amount of expectation. Now, when you don't have the foundations in place, expectation on its own is a very dangerous thing. I actually have created a whole module on this in my Relatable program called Expectations and Why They Are the Silent Killers of Relationships, because expectations are very problematic. Okay. So, it then increases the amount of expectation. Oh, well, you know what my love language is. We've talked about it. So I expect you to do it a lot. Right. Now, the problem is for that person, if that's not their natural state, if that's not their natural thing, and they forget, because people do, or they get upset, or they have a bad day, or that is the last thing that's going to happen. Right. So the last thing that's going to happen because it's not their natural way of being. And so then what happens is you feel resentful because the other person's not doing the thing that you know that you really want to have happen. And it creates this really difficult, I kind of see this figure eight of resentment, frustration, and disappointment. Because it kind of like, well, if you really loved me, why wouldn't you do that thing? If you really care about me, why don't you do that? You know that it's important to me. And then we can get judgmental, self-righteous, angry, and all of those things destroy goodwill. So in of themselves, if you don't have these foundations in place, I think some of those things can actually be quite dangerous because they create benchmarks that then people decide that their relationships are an example of. They provide unrealistic expectations that people can't meet. They lead to disappointment and frustration. And so when you haven't got a foundation in place and you're just looking at some of the things that I've just mentioned, this is where it can be very problematic, because whilst those things are interesting, there needs to be some things in place before you would even look at that kind of stuff. Like when I'm working with a couple or I'm working with my students, I don't talk about those things at all. And again, it's not because I don't think those things are interesting. It's just that I know the foundations are key. And if you've got that down pat, by all means, have a look at those things, but you do it without all the loadedness and the expectation and the frustration and all of the things that people put on each other. Okay. And it just creates or it can create, I should say, an environment of adversarialness, an environment where we start using those things as weapons against each other rather than the way in which they were intended, as a way of understanding each other better and getting curious and exploring something. But we start to use them as weapons. We weaponize things. People do this with each other. Okay. So this is why I'm like, I like to put all of that stuff down, keep it really simple, and focus on the fundamentals. Because if you've got the fundamentals in place, you don't even need to know anything about that stuff. Doesn't mean you shouldn't. It doesn't mean don't go check it out, but you actually don't need to, right? You really don't. As an example, as someone who's always been a seeker of knowledge and understanding of human beings, it's just been a lifelong passion of mine anyway. I used to have bookshelves and Kindles full of ebooks and sort of things. And when I came across this, it simplified everything so much. I threw it all out. I didn't need any of it. Like my bookshelf went down to one bookshelf, which you can kind of see here, right? And the ebooks and all of that stuff, I got rid of them all because I would just look at all of these things. I always had like 3 or 4 or 5 books on the go, and then I'd get overwhelmed. So I haven't finished reading them, and I need to look at this, and I need to look at this, and all of a sudden my head was so full. I, funnily enough, didn't have the emotional bandwidth that I needed. There's another foundational relationship skill. So let's just talk about some of these foundational things that everybody needs to have. Okay, and if you have them and you understand them, you will find every relationship in your life will become easier, much, much, much easier, particularly the one you have with you, okay, which is the most important one of all. But you'll find that you'll navigate your emotions differently, someone else's emotions with more ease and flow. You'll find that you're more present, grounded, the things that actually make a difference. Okay, I can have a really great understanding of my husband's love language, for example, and I do. But If I don't know how to get over myself, if I don't have emotional bandwidth, if I don't navigate my own thinking well, do you think that is something that I'm going to actively do a lot of? Right? The first minute I feel like he's not pulling his weight, or he could have done this, or he could have done that, do you think I'm then going to make an effort to make sure I play out his love language? Absolutely not. And this is just how people are, right? I'm gonna hold back and go, well, why should I? You haven't done this, you haven't done that. Well, I'm not doing it. And this is where we end up. And so those things then aren't helpful to us. But if I can see where I am and I can recognize that I don't have great thinking, that I'm a bit stuck, and what I need to do right now is get over myself. If I have some of those foundational things in place, then I'm going to have the emotional bandwidth to be able to do that more often. But that in of itself is not enough, because if I feel like the other, like I just said, if I feel like the other person's not pulling their weight, if I feel like the other person's not doing enough, or I'm the one doing all the work, or whatever the thinking that we have, right? And I'm feeling self-righteous, that's the last thing I'm going to feel like doing. Okay, that is the last thing I'm going to feel like doing, because we all do it. We withhold. Well, I'm not doing it. You didn't. Why should I? And then we shut down and we withdraw and we do all the other stuff that we do, right? This is what people do. So you've got to know. So some fundamentals. Number one, to me, this is crucial, and the one that people struggle with the most. You have got to know how to get over yourself. Something I was shocking at. Absolutely shocking at. Now, here's the thing about being able to get over yourself. You've got to be able to do that all the time. Right? Not just once, not just like, oh, I got over myself last week. Getting over yourself can often be, I mean, look, I'm probably talking about myself here in the beginning when I was learning this. I had to learn to get over myself a lot because I was really bad at it. I get over myself pretty quickly these days, like very, very, very fast. But this was something that often would take me days, or I would have all this residue around and I'd never really get over myself. Like I'd feel better, I'd feel calmer, but I'd still be frustrated by that thing that happened last month, last year, last whatever. And given the right ingredients, would then toss that into a conversation. So I'd never really gotten over myself, and I'd not learnt how to do that well. And with all of the study and things that I'd been taught and shown and seen, I'd never really been taught how to do that. Okay. Now, the day that I started doing that well, things really changed in my marriage. Things changed for me. I was happier. I felt better. I was in a different feeling. It was quite amazing, the relief that I felt because I was able to do that. So you've got to know how to get over yourself. You really do, because, we can be very egotistical and egocentric beings, human beings, right? We just can be. And that's not a bad thing. Everybody does it. It's not a bad thing, but you do need to know when you're there, and you do need to know what to do about it when you're there. This is very, 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 very important. So relationship fundamentals is what we're talking about, and the foundations of how you build great relationships. So can you see how being great at getting over yourself is something you can apply to every relationship? And can I just say, if you are a parent of teenage kids, being good at getting over yourself is absolutely critically important, okay? Because teenagers are incredibly, incredibly egotistical at times, okay? Incredibly. And so, being able to get over yourself is super important, very helpful there. If you're dealing with in-laws, it's very important. If you're dealing with work colleagues, can you see it's really, really important? And it's also important your relationship with you. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're someone who makes yourself wrong a lot, if you're someone who beats yourself up, so let's just say, I don't know, maybe you got something wrong you did something wrong at work. Okay, maybe you screwed up at work. You maybe there was something you were meant to submit on time and you were late, or you submitted it and it was wrong. Okay. If you're someone who beats yourself up and makes yourself wrong and can't put that thing down, can you see how damaging that is to you? Can you see how much pain that causes you and suffering if you're not able to forgive yourself and put something down? Okay. So getting over yourself, right? So there's a few people asking me questions about this. Hey, Andrew. Hi. Nice to see you. Hey, Lisa. Thanks for saying hi. So what do you mean by getting over yourself? Okay. So what I mean by that is, if I'm really angry and I'm pissy and frustrated and or maybe I'm resentful, or maybe I'm in martyr mode, like I'm on my high horse, nothing I do from that place will achieve anything. Can you see that? Like if there's a problem I'm having with one of my kids or a work colleague or my husband or anyone, right? If I approach it from that heightened state of mind, well, I'm annoyed and I'm frustrated and I'm self-righteous and I think I'm right and I think my point of view is better. If I come across from that place, what am I going to achieve? Honestly, I want you to think about it. All the times you've done it, because we've all done it. What have you achieved at that point in time? Take a think about it. Take a think about it. Have a think about it. Sorry, it's poor English. What has that achieved? Has it gotten you the outcome you were looking for? Like, be honest. Let me know. Just pop a no or a yes or whatever you want to do in the comments. I'd love to know. What has it actually achieved? Let's just say you've got a parenting issue with one of your kids, and you come into them and you say to them, how dare you? You're so disrespectful, because that's right. And you're like this. What does that actually achieve? Nothing. That's right. Thanks, Tina. It really doesn't. In all honesty, if you have a good, long, hard look at it, what does it achieve? You get to have the satisfaction of letting rip and kind of what I call verbally vomiting over someone, right? So you kind of feel better because it's all pent up, and then you let it out and you go, oh, that feels better, right? But you have that momentary moment where it feels better, but then, of course, everything just goes downhill from there, doesn't it? People either shut down and walk away, or they escalate and get angry. Nobody's listening to one another. Nothing changes. You start yelling at each other. It just becomes two people butting heads. And then by the time you've finished yelling and screaming, or one person shut down or whatever, then there's this Cold War. No one really says anything. And there's this horrible tension. So, you've got to be able to get over yourself. That doesn't mean, and there's a question that's come from Angela, and I'm going to address your question, Angela, okay? So it's a great question. That doesn't mean that you don't express how you feel, you never talk about things, and you agree with everything, all right? Well, yes, Tina, learning to take the pause is important, but see, here's the thing. That in of itself won't help you when you're triggered in a moment, will it? Like when we're calm, we logically know pausing is a good idea, right? But when you are in a heightened state of emotion and you're feeling triggered and you're really, does the thought of, oh, I need to pause right now, like, can you see that's not going to give you any traction, is it? Right? When you're right in that moment and it's all happening, you saying to yourself, like, that will not be enough, because you won't be able to hold it in. Does that make sense? You won't be able to hold it in, and you'll just go, right? That's what people do. So this is why there are some fundamentals that are really important. If you know how to get over yourself, you will be able to change that. And this is a big part of what I teach. You will be able to put it down and generate something completely different and have a conversation from a completely different place. My relatable students regularly say this to me: Fiona, I cannot believe how differently I'm handling things. I can't believe it. I always thought, I was always someone who was so explosive and I was always so quick, but I cannot believe how calm I am. I cannot believe how clear my mind is. I cannot believe how much emotional bandwidth that I have. It's unbelievable. And the impact that it has on the people around me when I show up like that. And then as they get better and better at doing that and they see the ripple effects of it, okay, it becomes very, very empowering. It's a very empowering place to live your life from. It really is. And this is how people start generating brand new normals in their relationships, whether it be the relationship with themselves, whether it be their relationships with their partner, their kids, their in-laws, their work colleagues, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? There is bandwidth and capacity that was never there before. It is an amazing feeling. Amazing feeling. Literally one of the most amazing feelings I've ever experienced, because I did not have it. I was your explosive. I knew learning to pause was very important, but in the moment when I was upset and triggered because I had so much, it was kind of so habitual for me. That was not helpful to me. It was helpful to me when I was calm, but that's not when I need it. I need it when I'm triggered and I'm frustrated and I'm angry, right? So getting over yourself is very important. And also, like I said, if you're someone who beats yourself up, who never lets yourself off the hook, you got to understand, if you're not able to get over yourself for you please understand the way you show up to others will be impacted by that. Because if you're judgmental of yourself, you will be judgmental of others way more, 100%. This is a fact. People who are judgmental of themselves are very judgmental of others. People who have high expectations of themselves and are frustrated with themselves have high expectations and get frustrated easily with others, right? Your relationship with you gets mirrored around you all the time, all the time. And so if you don't know how to let yourself off the hook, if you're someone who beats yourself up, if you don't know how to get over yourself, that's what I mean. Put that stuff down and let it go when you make a mistake. Let it go when you screw up. Like, let yourself off the hook. Treat yourself with compassion and all of those things. If you don't know how to do that, you will bring that everywhere you go because you can't help it, because it's in you. Does that make sense? And so it has to come out somewhere, and it will come out with the people around you. So being able to get over yourself is one of those foundational, fundamental things I believe every single person on this planet should know how to do well. Imagine if we all knew how to do that. Could you imagine what life would be like if everyone was able to do that and to do that one thing well? How would that change every relationship on the planet if people knew how to do that one thing? And these are some of the things that I think about and why I get so passionate about this stuff, because I'm like, once I teach one person that, they are going to create massive ripple effects in their families and their communities, because that's how powerful we are. So definitely getting over yourself. Now, I just want to address what Angela said before, because that's a really important thing. Now, one of the things that happens when you know how to get over yourself, okay, this is one of the things that starts occurring, is you develop emotional bandwidth. Most people have very little emotional bandwidth. Really, they do, okay? Most people have very little emotional bandwidth. Far, far less than they even realize, okay? See, when I'm not raging about what someone else is doing or raging about what someone else is doing, I haven't got all that thinking going through my mind. Thoughts like, I can't believe they said that. This is just so typical of them. I have had enough of this. I put up with this constantly. I'm just and or whether it's directed at you. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I'm such an idiot. Why do I always do that? I've really got there's something wrong with me. I've really like this. See, you got to understand. The more thought you have going on in your head, the busier minded you are, the less emotional bandwidth you have. And so I want you to think about it like this. When your head's going fast, no bandwidth When you've got no bandwidth and something unexpected happens, like you lose your car keys when you're about to walk out the door, or your best friend's late to meet you out for dinner, or you get stuck in traffic, or you go to school and you realize the kids have left their lunchbox on the bench, or your boss gets really ticked off at you at work about something you didn't do, or like, do you know what I mean? Anything like that happens, your capacity to handle or deal with that is minuscule. Minuscule. You don't have it. And so when you don't have capacity to deal with the unexpected, and life is full of it, right? This is when we are at our worst. We either shut down, we go inward, which is what some people do, and we disappear, or we just become ragey, frustrated, etc. Or maybe we're someone who just gets really heavy and sad, and we just get stuck in that space, and we're kind of like this, right? This is because you don't have any emotional bandwidth. It is unbelievable what emotional bandwidth gives you. Unbelievable. I can't even, you have to experience it to realize it. It's the most amazing gift you can give yourself, truly. And so when you get over yourself, emotional bandwidth becomes the next thing that you get. Okay? Now, people who have emotional bandwidth do really, really well when the unexpected happens, both within themselves and within the people around them. Whether it be their partner has a meltdown, or they find out that their kids have been skipping school, or whatever, right? We have this incredible capacity to deal with life. We have so much more choice available to us around how we're going to deal with anything. We find ourselves with this incredible sense of resilience and patience and compassion and understanding. We feel calmer and grounded. Like, I could go on and on about the benefits just of having emotional bandwidth, because I tell you, most people don't have it. You know, I was just speaking to a client this morning who's been doing my Relatable program, and we've had some sessions, and they were saying to me, you know, Fiona, one of the things that has been so helpful to me has been recognizing how self-righteous and judgmental I was. She said, I had no idea, none. I did not know how self-righteous and judgmental I could be. I had no comprehension of it. You know, I've got a wide circle of friends. You know, I've got my family, my kids, but I had no comprehension. The fact that I can see that, and I know it, and I know how to get over myself, has made such an enormous difference to my relationships, to my marriage, to how I parent, to everything. So getting over yourself creates emotional bandwidth. Emotional bandwidth is the greatest thing that can ever happen to any of us. I tell you, we all need more of it. And the great thing about emotional bandwidth is it just grows and grows and grows. It's unlimited when you're looking in the right direction. Okay? So you know how to get over yourself. It generates emotional bandwidth. Now, here's what happens when we have emotional bandwidth. We get mental clarity, mental and emotional clarity. So instead of, as I was saying before, trying to solve problems from an overthinking, over-analytical, frantic, busy mind, which is what so many of us are doing, and we can't even see it because it's become so normal, and mind becomes clear. Now, when you have clarity of mind, boundaries, which is what Angela was just talking about, take care of themselves. Take care of themselves. So, for example, let's just say, I don't know, the weekend's coming up. You've been looking forward to having a quiet weekend. You just want to have time to yourself. You don't want to do anything. You're really needing some time just to, you know, bum around the house in your PJs, chill out, watch movies, you know, and just kind of unplug. You've been really looking forward to it. And a good friend rings you up, a friend that you haven't seen for a while, right? And they ring you up and they say, hey, Jane, how are you? Guess what? I'm in town. I thought maybe we could go out for dinner and, I've got the kids. Maybe we could meet up at the park and, what are you up to today? Right. Now, when you don't have clarity and your mind's really busy, this is what people do. Oh my God, I really should see Jane. I haven't seen Jane for months and, I don't know when the next time I'm going to see her. And my God, I was really looking forward to just having time to myself and just chilling out and vegging on the couch. I mean, as much as I love Jane, oh my God, the thought of having a shower, I have to wash my hair. I haven't washed it all week. It's a greasy lump. And, I haven't even got any clean clothes and they want to come to the house and the house looks like a tip. And it means I've got to run around and vacuum. And, but I really should see her because she's a good friend. I mean, what if she thinks that, what if she thinks that I don't really like her if I don't see her? I mean, and I go round and I go round. This is what someone with no emotional bandwidth does. Okay. And so then they find themselves agreeing to something they don't really want to do. And then they get to the end of the day and they're exhausted and they're frustrated and they're annoyed and they can't work out why. Because they've just spent the day doing something that's not honoring of who they are and where they really want to be. Okay. They've operated from shoulds. So we do that when our mind's busy and we've got no clarity and we've got no emotional bandwidth. Here's what someone with emotional bandwidth, here's the difference in their mental load, okay? Because your mind's clear. So Jane rings, you're sitting on the couch, you're just about to watch some movie you've been wanting to watch, you're in your PJs, you're like, and they ring and say, hey, I'm in town. I've got the kids. Why don't we meet up at the park? And I thought, we could grab a bite to eat and we could do this and we could do that. And you sit there because your mind's clear, because you haven't got all of that mental load and you're very present to you and where you are and what you need. This is how differently someone who has clarity of mind reacts. They get quiet, they sit, they do a check-in, and these are all a lot of the things that I teach. They know where they are with their thinking. They know exactly where they are. And they say, Jane, it is so lovely to hear from you, and I would so love to catch up with you. But I've got to be honest, babe, I'm just exhausted. I don't actually have anything on, but what I do have is it's recharge day, and I'm just on the couch and I'm in my PJs and I'm just not up for any visiting. Please don't take it personally. I think you're awesome and I'd love to catch up. Today's just not the day. Please call me next time you're in town. I'd love to see you. And they put the phone down and they do not have any more thinking about it. No more thought. Their minds are silent. They go back, they press play, they watch their movie with nothing going on in here. That's what clarity looks like. It becomes easy to say, no, not today. And there is no second guessing. It's just, not today. I'm not up for it. I'm all good. Thanks. Now, the feeling of that is amazing because this is the stuff that people do all day long and it's exhausting. Now, let's just imagine something. You're that person sitting on the couch. You've got no clarity of mind. Your mind's going at a million miles an hour. Your friend rings up. You reluctantly say yes when you don't want to, but you do it out of guilt and shooting all over yourself. And I've got to make an effort. And you force yourself to do something that you fundamentally don't want to do. Right? And let's just say it's been you, Jane, and the kids, and it was kind of exhausting at the park. It was cold and you didn't bring a proper jacket. The kids were fighting. One of them fell over and hurt their knees. You had to stop at the chemist and get, disinfectant and a Band-Aid. And then the moment you got there, the kids were nagging as they were hungry and tired and you didn't bring enough snacks and you struggle back in the door and it's 5 o'clock and everyone's over it and tired. And, maybe your partner or someone walks in the door and says, hey, babe, and you look at them and go, oh, don't hey me. I'm so over it. Take the kids. I can't stand it. Right? And you walk off and you shut the door. Like, I just want you to see the ripple effects of all of it. Is this making sense to people? Because this is very, very important. This is how these things play out. This is the ripple effects of no emotional bandwidth. This is the ripple effects of busy-mindedness. This is the ripple effects of not knowing how to get over yourself. It ends up being that you snap because you just can't be, you know what I mean? And you end up snapping at your partner because we can, right? And I'm not saying that snapping at your partner is bad. We all do it. But when we do that a lot, and we do it a lot when we don't have emotional bandwidth, it erodes the foundations of your relationships. You don't feel good about you. Like, can you see the ripple effect of all of this stuff? When you have clarity of mind, it becomes so much easier to talk about something from a calm and what's the word? Grounded space within yourself, right? That way your boundaries don't get violated. There's a comfortability in your own skin that you bring to things which generates conviction. That's what clarity of mind is. It's very, very, very important. These are things that people don't value enough. So if you don't have clarity of mind, you don't know how to get over yourself, your mind's racing, you don't know how to let yourself off the hook. And let's just say your relationship's in trouble and you decide to learn about love language. How is that going to help you in the long term if you haven't handled this stuff? Like, in all honesty. Or you decide to learn about attachment theory. Great, right? Fantastic. But if you haven't got these foundations in place, how is that long term going to make the change that you're looking for in your relationships? Okay. If you're learning about, I don't know, how to communicate more effectively, that's all well and good. But when your head's full and you don't know how to navigate that, I'm telling you, your ability to communicate will not be there. No matter what you know about communication, it just won't be there, because someone with a busy mind and no emotional bandwidth does not communicate well. No matter how much information they have about learning how to communicate well, you just don't have the capacity for it. It's impossible. So there are just these foundational things that you need to know, right? And these are the things that I'm talking about. As you learn these things, as you become good at these things, right, then you can look at some of this other stuff and bring that into the mix if you even feel it's necessary. Most of the time you probably won't, but by all means, if you feel it's necessary, then you go there. So this is what I mean by building a relationship from the foundations up rather than from the top down. So there are just foundations of being, of understanding our own humanness and the things that I'm talking about, that everybody should make it their mission in life to know and do well. Because when you do, the whole trajectory of your life changes everywhere. It's unbelievable, the ripple effect of it. Okay? And so this, in my mind, are the keys to being relatable, doing relationships well, living a life where you feel fulfilled and happy, right? Where you're playful and curious and you're literally showing up the way you want to show up, okay? Rather than being limited by, oh, I'm this type of personality, therefore I can't. You know, a lot of the time, as I talk about with my relatable students, some of those things that you think are your personality types, we blow the myths, and they are myths around that, out of the water, okay? Because, you know, that's a whole other conversation I could run a masterclass on. But hey, Angela, it would be amazing. Your partner is the person who constantly beats herself up, right? Yes, I watch my partner do this constantly, and it's hard to watch. She can't say no, it affects our relationship. Yeah, it does. Leanne, absolutely me. Oh my God. Okay. Hey, Shani, this is so good, Fiona. Great to be reminded of the basics and add the experience of relatable winning. Awesome. Thanks, Shani, honey. Thank you. Shani's doing relatable. So's Deezer. There's a few people here that have done that. So, I've been speaking for a really long time. Okay. So thanks so much, Tara. I'm glad that you're loving this. That's awesome. Thank you, Leanne. I really appreciate your feedback. I really appreciate it, guys. It does help, because I'm chatting away and I'm like, I don't even know, like, you know, it's great to get some feedback, because it helps me know that I'm presenting this in a way that's helpful to you. Okay. So can you see why the foundations are so important, right? You're welcome, Christy. Hey, honey, thanks for commenting. The foundations are so important, and why I talk about them so much. We get caught up in all the feel-good stuff. Oh, I've learned about, you know, whatever today. I've learned about core needs of a human being. I've learned about this. I've learned about that. It's fascinating. It's interesting. But learning about that over the top of this stuff not being taken care of will not be the thing that actually makes any major difference. It just becomes an interesting thing that you know, and you've enjoyed the experience of learning new information, and we all do enjoy that. I enjoy it as well. But when it comes to the nuts and bolts of what you're trying to achieve, it will not be the thing that moves the needle. This is the stuff that moves the needle. Okay. Now, if any of you guys want to know about that, this is everything I teach in Relatable. Everything I teach in my Relatable program. We have the most amazing conversations. We just had another incredible one on Wednesday night. I run calls twice a week. And this is what we talk about and learn. And it is just, what is created in that group is just so beautiful. I had a gentleman join a couple of weeks ago, and he was on the call on Wednesday night saying, I wasn't sure about this, but this has turned out to be the greatest investment in myself I have ever made. And there is just the community. I can't put into words what we are creating magic. Why? Because people are learning how to get over themselves, because people have emotional bandwidth, because people are showing up in ways that they've never been able to before. People are learning this stuff, implementing it, and seeing the ripple effects follow out in their lives. This is the stuff that matters. You want to feel happy? Learn how to create emotional bandwidth. Learn how to get over yourself. Right? Learn how to navigate your thinking. This is where it begins and ends, guys. So if anyone wants to know more about Relatable, there's a few people online. You can ask questions there. Hello. Hey, Sheila. Oh, my goodness. Hello, darling. It's so lovely to hear from you. It's Sheila still with you. My journey began with your work, and it's transformative. I have to put this up here. Bandwidth equals spaciousness for awareness, strength, boundaries, and self-compassion. Why? Because it's a path. Yes, choosing authenticity versus attachment. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful, beautifully said. Thank you, Sheila. Wow, I love it. Thank you, everyone. So appreciate it. Okay, so if you want to know more about Relatable, if you want to join Relatable, any of those things, you can book a call with me, or you can send an email, and we will give you more information. I will put the link to book a chat with me in the comments below. And I just want to say, guys, if you have a question that you would like me to answer, I know I haven't really answered any questions today, but I really wanted to go back to the basics. I just felt that it was really important. I took a moment to think about what would be of service to you guys before I started this, and that's really what showed up for me. So you can book a time with me there, or you can send an email to hello@fionalukeis.com.au, and I will answer your questions. I'll be here next Friday, so I look forward to seeing you there. Lots and lots of love, everybody. Take care now. Have a great weekend. Thank you, everyone. Ciao.